1. This happened when I was a young and impressionable 14-year-old, back in 2011-2012, and was frequenting online chat sites for role-playing purposes. It was a bit of a bad habit, but as an introvert who didn't have many friends, it was how I did social interaction. I'll say for myself that even now I still have some of the friends I made back then. But let's not talk about them. Let's talk about my friend, Alex. Alex was a guy that I met in a Doctor Who chat room. He sent me a private message for something I had said in the room that I don't remember, and we struck up a conversation. I remember he had really good grammar, and he typed paragraph-long messages. He told me that he was 2 years older than I was, and lived on the West Coast, somewhere in California. At the time, I was living with my parents in North Carolina, so it was quite a considerable time difference. Yet, he always seemed to have the time to talk to me. As long-distance friendships often do, we sort of disintegrated. I could tell that he was making valid efforts to talk to me, but I just lost interest and found myself moving on after a few weeks of talking to him. One night he sent me what amounted to an essay's worth of messages describing his love for me. How he just knew that we were meant for each other, yada yada yada. It was completely out of the blue, so I politely rejected him and ended our correspondence. He would continue to send me paragraphs of text every night, talking about our love and how perfect I was, blah blah blah. I eventually blocked him. Fast forward a couple of months to early 2013. I wasn't role-playing anymore, and it was the second month of my first serious relationship. One night my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. The owner of said number was apparently looking for a friend of his. I informed him that he had messaged the wrong number, laughed it off, and then we texted on and off for the rest of the evening. Dude seemed pretty nice, and he said he was pleased to have made friends with a supposed wrong number. I concurred, still kicking myself for that. As we talked over the next few days, I found myself telling him about Alex, what had happened, how uncomfortable it made me, how relieved I was to have found someone else and be in a happy relationship. My new friend was unresponsive for a couple of hours. I just figured I had annoyed him with my sob story and wrote it off. I was soon woken up from sleep by my phone practically exploding with new notifications from my friend. It was Alex. He had changed his number just so he could text me and pretend to be a stranger who had the wrong number. He said that he still loved me, that I was a dumb slut for moving on from him, and that I had to break up with my boyfriend and rekindle our flame, or I would be sorry. Yikes. I blocked him and didn't tell my boyfriend anything. More months passed and I eventually forgot about Alex. I would still get occasional messages from unknown numbers, saying innocuous things like, "Hey," and "What's up?" I blocked it every time. I wasn't taking any risks from someone I didn't know. It wasn't until I was 16 that shit really hit the fan. At this point I had changed phones and numbers. I was FaceTiming my boyfriend, same one from before, when I got yet another text from an unknown number. But this one was different. It just said, "I'm here." I had no doubt that it was Alex. I said my goodnights to my boyfriend and ended the call before doing the stupidest thing I could have done. I answered the text. "Who is this?" I played dumb, and he saw right through it. He responded with, "It's me, baby, it's Alex." I always talked about the two of us being together, and now we finally can be. I love you so much. I wanted to throw up. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I'm in Raleigh. I moved out and drove to find you. Tell me where you are and I can come pick you up." We can get a place and finally be together. Raleigh is the capital city of North Carolina. I live several hours away from it. Luckily enough, he didn't know this. I was 2 steps away from panicking. Looking back on it, he could have been lying. But at the time, I was just so terrified that I couldn't think straight. I told him to fuck off, that he was crazy, blah blah blah. He got pissed. What are you talking about, honey? Why are you doing this? I came all this way just so I could be with you, and you're going to push me away? Don't be such a selfish bitch, and just tell me where you are. I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked the number, turned off my phone's location services, and didn't sleep. Unbelievably, I never heard from him again. I don't know what could have happened to him, and I have no idea how he got my number after I changed it. He came across my Facebook feed early this year, and his page said that he had moved to Atlanta and had a girlfriend now. I hope she's okay. 2. I love staying up late. Watching television until 3 a.m. is my bread and butter. Suffice to say, this is the usual thing for me when I'm home alone. With my dad going away for work every 2 weeks and coming home for 1, it was very easy for me to get away with it while I was still in school. And for context, I lived with just my dad as my mom passed away from cancer when I was only 12. But I wasn't completely alone though. I had a tuxedo cat, with the most fitting moniker, Tuxedo. I've had him since I turned 16, and he's kept me company during the many long Canadian winter nights when I was by myself. His 2 favorite places to sit were the small red couch on the right side of my television, and the small table that was placed in front of the large living room window. I also occupied the big red couch right in front of the television. One more important thing to note is that my dad always insisted I close the curtains on the large living room window when it became nighttime. To him, he thought it was dangerous to let people see into the house and could tempt them to break in. But in my mind, I always figured no one would be dumb enough to break into a house with lights on, instead of a house with no lights on at all. So I usually just left them open the entire 2 weeks he was away because laziness. So on this particular night, I was watching a documentary. I think it was about some couple being held hostage somewhere in Australia. These certain documentaries would be on very late, which wasn't a problem for 18-year-old me in the slightest. Tuxedo obviously felt differently, as he had chosen to gaze outside the living room window instead. As it had just entered commercial break, Tuxedo started giving soft cries as his eyes were staring in the direction of the front door, which was on the left side of the window. He usually does this if he sees someone outside at the door, which was more commonly done during the day than the night for obvious reasons. It was actually very out of the ordinary for Tuxedo to do this so late. At first, I assumed it might have been an outdoor cat or wild rabbit by the door. But I could tell Tuxedo's wail was especially worrisome, so I decided to check it out for myself. Here's the layout of my front door entrance. Tuxedo and I were on the top floor, but the entrance was at a lower level that was between the top floor and the basement. There was a small staircase that went down from the top floor towards the front door, and a second small staircase that went further down away from the door to the basement. Hopefully that was a good explanation of it. So I'm standing at the top of the staircase, about to go down and open the door to see for myself, when I see a large shadowy figure in the frosted glass of my front door. I nearly collapsed to the ground when I saw this. It was definitely not my dad. And 11 p.m. at night, it was certainly not something I expected to see. I could tell whoever this was had something in the door and was trying to pry it open. At that moment, something came over me that I can't explain. It might have been the fact that I knew I had no one in the house to come help me. or the fact that I felt an urgency to protect Tuxedo from this intruder. But I grabbed my cell phone off the arm of the couch and threw on the lights over the front door. The shadowy figure was now fully visible and clearly startled as our eyes met through the frosted glass, his face displayed in a jagged reflection. "Leave now. I'm calling the police. Leave." I didn't even get to finish before he was dashing off my yard and into a car across the street. Before I could even tell the make and model, let alone a license plate, he was gone. All that remained was a crude crowbar on the front step. Now, it's up for debate what that man was at my house for. I certainly didn't recognize him in the few seconds I looked at him. While this definitely shattered my imagined immunity from danger, if the lights were still on, part of me wonders if he might have still attacked if I wasn't awake that night. One thing is for sure, Tuxedo saved my life that night. I don't even want to imagine what might have happened if Tuxedo wasn't looking out the window that night. 3. Please be aware the following story deals with themes of psychological and physical abuse. This occurred when I was 18 and very naive. I am now 22. I am 5'4" and very petite. These details will make sense later. I was dating a guy significantly older than me, 14 years to be exact. Let's call him Jake because I'm not sure if he's still keeping tabs on me, and I don't want to piss him off more than I have. I have never shared this story with anyone other than my parents, only because police were involved. Jake and I had been seeing each other for about a year. We were pretty happy and in love. I was very, very wrong about what love was supposed to be, and it seemed as though we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. I modeled as a side job, and came home one night after a shoot. Being that I was very exhausted and caked in a ton of makeup, I decided to take a hot bath and relax. I was basically living with Jake at the time in his apartment. Jake was there when I got home, and I immediately went to the bedroom to put my purse down and went to the bathroom to take a bath. Let me explain the layout of the apartment, as some of the details may help you understand better. When you walk through the door, the living room is to your left, and the kitchen is straight ahead of you. Past the kitchen, there's a narrow hallway, and at the end of the hallway there's the only bedroom. Right before the bedroom to the left is the bathroom where I was. Jake played volleyball on a co-rec team, and was getting ready to go as I sat in the bathtub. I kept the door open so we could talk, being that I had not seen him all day. All of a sudden, Jake starts acting weird. He starts pacing back and forth between the kitchen and bedroom. So I saw him walking past the bathroom multiple times. As he walked down the hallway, he stops in the bathroom doorway and calmly states, "You can leave now, slut." Now, being that we have been together for almost a year, this set off an alarm in my head, and I got out of the bathtub, dried off, and got dressed as fast as I could. When I walked down the hallway to the living room, he had my phone pressed to his ear, and his voice tinged with anger. I could only make out some of the words, and they were not good. I immediately came after him to try to get the phone from him, being that I did not know who he was on the phone with. We basically played cat and mouse around the house, until he decided he was done, ran to the bathroom and shattered my brand new phone on the ground. He turned around and got in my face and screamed, "Now you can be a little whore." Confused and now terrified, as I had never seen this side of him, I'm only able to get out a pathetic whimper. He then proceeds to accuse me of cheating on him with my photographer. Still to this day, I find this absolutely absurd. Let me tell you word for word the text messages that Jake was so pissed off by. Photographer: "You did great at the shoot." Me: "Thank you. I can't wait to see the proofs." Photographer: I will give you a call as soon as we're ready to review them. See you next time." That was it. I know you're sitting there wondering what about that set him off. Honestly, I still wonder to this day. I always wonder if he just wanted a reason to lash out. Anyway, after he had smashed my phone that I had just purchased, I decided to get even. Jake was a big gamer, so I stormed down the hallway with Jake at my heels, grabbed his computer monitor and shattered it against the wall. Already on the precipice of losing his mind, Jake then grabs my shirt from behind me and yanks me back against the wall, causing me to hit the back of my head. I immediately get back up to take a swing at him, steaming pissed. His hands meet my throat, and the next thing I know, I was gasping for air. Being that I was such a small girl, it was very easy for him to overpower me. Releasing his grip, he shoves me on the ground. It is about this point that I have had enough and stomped out the door. I get to my car in tears, with a sore head and a shattered heart. I drove to a nearby gas station to use the phone just to tell my mom about the incident. At the time, I just wanted to leave, drop it, not get the police involved, and never speak to him again. I wish I could say that was what happened. That he left me alone, and I moved on and never spoke to him again. But unfortunately, that was just the beginning. I drove home to my parents and put my SIM card into an old flip phone we had at the house. Jake called me and texted me repeatedly. I answered the first time saying that I did not want to talk to him anymore and that I wanted to cut things off. He did not take that well. It was like he thought I was going to come crawling back to him. These texts and calls continued. I would get a phone call when it went to voicemail. He then would hang up and text me right after and then try to call again. This occurred for 24 hours straight. My dad did not know about Jake at all, but my mom did. Around 4 a.m., with my phone still going off, I decided to answer and try to tell him to leave me alone again. Before I could say anything, I hear, "If you don't quit your modeling job, I will release videos of us having sex to everyone on our email list." I just want to pause and say, I had no idea he was taking videos. Honestly, I still don't know if these videos exist to this day. Anyway, back to the story. He had managed to hack into my email account and make it so I couldn't get back into it. I couldn't call his bluff. He also told me that if I got the police involved, he would immediately release the videos, so I complied. I called the modeling agency with him in the call. He demanded to be in the call, so he knew without a doubt that I quit. I spoke to my agent and told her that I'm quitting my job modeling. I gotta say, it broke my heart. I loved modeling, and it was my dream to become successful in it. This was the first door that opened up and allowed me to start making a career out of it. But if quitting made him leave me alone, I was willing to do anything. Unfortunately, he did not leave me alone after I quit. The calls and texts continued. Yes, I know you're wondering, why hasn't she changed her number? I'll tell you why. He was still threatening to release the videos even after I quit my modeling job. So there I was, stuck in a corner, wondering what to do next. I decided to tell my dad. Obviously, he was furious that I was dating a much older man, but was even more mad at him for what he had done to me. The next morning, I decided that I've had enough and was done being afraid. So my mom and I went to the county courthouse and decided to file an order of protection. I spoke with a lady who took down the details of the incident and his information and filed it. Later that week, he was served with the papers. I just got the confirmation from my case officer. Let me tell you, I did not breathe. I did not leave my house, and I did not stop worrying until those papers were served. I was scared out of my wits, and I was terrified that he was going to kill me. My parents drove me to work. I worked at Walmart at the time. and I would be at the register with my manager close by. I had sat down with the store owner and came up with a plan of action, with a secure area included if he was to walk in the door. I refused to be alone. It took me a few years to return to myself. Yes, I changed my phone number. I got a new car so he didn't know what I drove. I got a new job so he couldn't find me at work. We even moved so he didn't know where I live. I am happy now with my life. I have a supportive family. I've graduated from college and I have a wonderful boyfriend who shows me daily what true love is. I never understood why people subjected themselves to abusive situations and why they don't just leave. I hope this story serves as proof that sometimes it's just not that easy. There were so many red flags throughout the relationship that I didn't see because I thought I was in love. I'm going to list them in hopes that I help someone realize that they are in an abusive situation. Number 1. I wasn't allowed to have any guy friends. I had to explain who every single person was in my phone, and if he wasn't okay with them, I had to stop talking to them. Number 2. I wasn't allowed to have any social media. No Twitter, no Facebook, no Reddit, no nothing. Number 3. He never wanted to meet my family or friends. It was always about what he wanted. Number 4. He made me feel like I never did anything right. I tried my hardest to please him, but it never worked. Those are just a few, but please, if you think you are in an abusive relationship, get out now. I'm lucky that it didn't turn into something worse, so Jake, let's never meet again. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 144. Thank you very much to the individuals who allowed me to use their stories. In the upcoming weeks, you're going to be finding stories that I will link to whenever possible, but you might find the stories have been deleted on Reddit. Now, the reason for that is I've got a bunch of stories that I had permission to use, that I did have them, I had the link saved, but whenever it came time to record, if I'd click on a story, pick one I wanted to do a reading of, if I saw it was deleted, I'd just simply move on to the next one because I hadn't found the time to print them up into documents, because I always save the pages when I get permission for a story, and these ones I had of course saved the pages of them, but I hadn't had time to print them up into documents so I could stick them on my tablet and then do readings of them. But I have now, they're all done, there's a few of them, and just in case anyone's wondering in the links why there's suddenly a whole bunch over the course of maybe 3 or 4 videos that are all deleted, that's the reason why. Just wanted to clear that up. Anyway, I think I'm going to head off now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.